and welcome to another week of Libertarians at Large. My name is Eric Rautzep, and this is where we discuss the week in news and express a libertarian point of view on the goings-on in our nation and abroad. We welcome your comments and questions in the chat box, so feel free to comment regularly. We may share your comment on the air. This week, I'm joined with my fellow at-large members, Valerie Sarwark and Laura Ebke. How are you ladies doing?
Doing well.
Good. Hi.
Very nice.
Hey, I just want to make note, I'm wearing my Nebraska sweatshirt tonight because the Nebraska baseball team won the Big Ten championship.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, well, it's an excuse for wearing the Nebraska shirt. So
there you go. Hey, go for it. It looks good on you.
Thanks.
But this week, our special guest is Ricky Harrington Jr., candidate for governor in Arkansas. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well this evening.
Very good. That is awesome. So what's been going on, everyone? What have we all been up to this last week?
Nothing.
Has it been a quiet week? Is that what we're saying?
I'm catching up from my trip to
once,
Colorado
right?
last week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Colorado was definitely an interesting convention. That's for sure. There was highs and lows for everyone in attendance. So
Yep.
that was that's the way a convention should be, though. I think we have to have excitement and energy at all of our conventions, and sometimes hey, that's the way it works.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was a good convention, and they had both Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen there. So that was exciting, and Tasha Cohen, right? That's her name, and Spike's wife, and then Scott Horton spoke, and I mean they had a lot of people there, so it was a good time.
Awesome. Ricky, I know the campaign trail never lets you rest. So, what are some of the things you've been up to, or what do you have coming up? Maybe we can get some excitement about upcoming events.
Well, this weekend there will be a meet and greet for the gubernatorial candidates in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And so each of the candidates will have about 15 minutes to speak and answer questions from the public. And also we'll have a booth trying to collect signatures. So I'm very grateful for the chapter in Northeast Arkansas that allowed me to participate in this event. I'm deeply grateful for the people of Arkansas, and they're starting to wake up to the option of third parties.
That is important right there. The fact that we know that there isn't just a side A and a side B, but there's a whole spectrum and a whole other course to go to on the menu of American politics.
While we're here, I'd like to express gratitude to Dr. Ebke, for the card you sent me. It was very heartfelt. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So Ryan Jenkins just got out of school this week, so he's pretty excited. We need to acknowledge that. Ryan sits on the candidate support committee, and he also is kind of leading the charge in Eastern Tennessee, I guess it is, maybe. And so he's 14 years old, so he is an impressive young man, and he is the future of the Libertarian Party. Apollo says that I did an amazing job. I don't know that I did an amazing job, but it was it's pretty easy when you're sitting there with Marshall Burt and Joe Jorgensen. So
we're going to try to get Mr. Jenkins plugged in with the campaign.
Do that. He would be happy to help you, I'm sure.
He is a social media guru, by the way.
Yeah, he's really good with social media.
Yes.
And he's got a lot of free time now that he's not in school.
That's right.
But I do want to point out to all of our viewers that if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's www.rickyharrington.com. If you want to support a phenomenal gentleman and a fighter for liberty, that's the best way of putting it, go to that website and click on Donate Now, because this is how we make a difference for the liberty movement around the country, is by supporting great candidates like Ricky Harrington Jr.
Hey, Ricky, why don't you tell folks a little bit about your background and history and what you bring to the campaign, in case they haven't, on the odd chance that some people haven't heard about you.
Well, I'd say the biggest thing of my background and what shapes my whole philosophy on approach toward politics has been some of the everyday things that you do in life. You never know how, those small repetitive things that you do can turn into big things. And those small repetitive things for me was being in the middle of two people in conflict. As far as I can remember, I've always been that person in the middle trying to reconcile those two conflicting parties, as far as I can remember. And it's always been escalating above that to bigger problems. And so I started 19 years old in ministry, started as a missionary apprentice, and I was sent to Scotland for a year, did a lot of work with the elderly that couldn't do any of the shopping for themselves and they had limited mobility. And I was assistant primary school teacher. And so when you go to another country, you have to learn the new customs. You have to understand the way that they think whenever you're trying to communicate such a deep message and help them change their life. As a missionary, we want people to, become followers of Jesus Christ and, make disciples. And so it's not easy work. And I don't even think I can take any of the credit at all. But, there's some techniques that we were taught. And, me, I like to connect with people. I like to, hear their stories. I like to, know where they're coming from. And I like to take wants and needs and try to turn them into reality. People, resources, point them in a direction to where they can, set themselves up for success. And so that's how I would be as a governor, as just an administrator, seeing where resources need to go and allocate and direct. That's as simple as it needs to be as a governor.
I suspect that skill set really helps you when it comes to campaigning as well, that you're able to relate to people and communicate well with them and listen to what it is that they want or need, right?
Yes. Have you ever had a conversation with someone who's speaking in broken English, or you are speaking broken Spanish or broken Italian or whatever? There's other ways that you have to try to communicate with one another, because you think about grammar, you think about culture. And so I'd like to posit that we need to take those principles of missionary anthropology or any type of cross-cultural anthropology and apply it to politics for libertarians in particular, because there's something that we want to communicate in our minds. And nobody understands where we're coming from. So we have to understand where they are and then try to communicate our ideas on a level that they will understand.
I think that's something that sometimes we as libertarians forget, that not everybody speaks the same language that we do. Mm-hmm. And that may be one of the shortfalls for many libertarian candidates, is that, they come in speaking one language and, it doesn't compute for the constituents. So I'm really excited to see how well you're going to do this next time around.
Yeah, I wanted to say, if anybody is like, oh, who's Ricky Harrington? Maybe you should Google his debate performance, where he literally single-handedly won this amazing debate. That was one of the best debate performances I've ever seen. And I think that, what Laura was saying, we also, as libertarians, don't usually listen as well as we should, but that is definitely a quality that you obviously have top of the line listening skills.
Now, am I correct that you've done some work in prison ministry as well?
Yes.
Okay.
After my time in China, we spent almost about 2 years in China. Came back, really didn't have a place to go, sleeping on my friend's couch, and my wife and 2 children were sleeping on an air mattress. And I was just punching it every day, trying to find work, applying all over the place. And then the door opened for chaplaincy. Someone said, wow, I guess I was looking for jobs, and one popped up, chaplain. And luckily in Arkansas, the only thing you need is a bachelor's degree, but the Bureau of Federal Prisons, they require you to have an MDiv. So that was one of the most profound experiences. It seems like every experience is a bigger growth from the previous one, where you're tested and you learn new skills and you get new feedback. But that someone asked me, what's the number one thing that I learned while working in prisons? And that was that our criminal justice system is extremely broken. That's the number one thing. And I spoke a little bit about it during my debate with Senator Cotton, and I mentioned Liddell Lee, and I was providing services during those executions, and he was the first one that, from the state's perspective, was a successful execution. And with the chaplains, we had to have an intervention with his nephew. His nephew was also incarcerated, because some of the inmates were making fun of him, ragging on him that they about to, do something to his uncle. And so, there's a lot of work that's done with chaplaincy and also non-security staff to try to, change the lives of the men that are incarcerated, because 90% of those that are incarcerated are going to be released. And so what we want to do is to carry out the mission of what the Department of Corrections is, and that's to prepare men to be mentally, emotionally, spiritually sound, so when they have served, paid their debt, they can go back to society, and we should provide avenues for them to have full rights, so they can be successful. Because whenever they can't get a job, whenever people are continuing to slam doors in their face, they turn around back to criminality. Easy money, it's an established relationship that you already have. It's kind of a no-brainer whenever you need to put food on the table and your belly is grumbling. And it's just a no-brainer to me. And so, we have to be just people. And in doing that, we need to have some reform in criminal justice.
Well, I'm going to get you on another show sometime, because I want to talk more about criminal justice. I was the judiciary chair of the legislature in Nebraska for a couple of years, on the committee for 2 years, and we have lots of problems with our criminal justice system in Nebraska, as does everybody, really. And I'd love to talk to you more about some of your experiences and some of the things that you've seen. And we'll do that in another forum someplace.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah. Very passionate about it.
Would love to talk to you more about it, but I'm not going to take up everybody's time tonight going on about it. Hey, Eric, I noticed that Apollo is making note of something that's going on in Wyoming.
Yes, but actually, before we get to Apollo, I wanted to kind of showcase Carl over here. And how does he get a website and a donation account that complies with campaign disclosure laws? Now, Ricky, I know you've run several campaigns at this point, but the first time you ran, how did you navigate trying to figure out, where do I get this and where do I get that, and who did you ask? Who did you partner up with? And do you have any words of wisdom for Carl?
It was a combination of looking. Just first off, it depends on what office you're running for. First off, because the state election campaign finance can be different from federal election campaign finance. So that's the first thing. Second thing, don't hesitate to call those organizations, because that's what they're there for.
Mhm.
They're there to help candidates navigate campaign finance laws. So, the first step would be, of course, get your EIN for your campaign committee, get that squared away, get some people on that would, want to volunteer and be on your campaign committee. Get yourself a good treasurer, even if you have to pay an accountant. Beg him to let you write an IOU if that's what you have to do. Because if you're working hard, you're going to raise that money. That's all there is to it.
And by the way, Carl, thank you for running for the Libertarian Party and being a choice for the people to select liberty at the polls. So thank you, Carl, very much for running. And you're right. Apollo also made a comment here. On June 11th, the Wyoming Libertarian Party will be filing 3 ballot initiatives, 2 in partnership with NORML and Wyoming Law Enforcement Action in Action for Medical Cannabis and Decriminalization. So that's really exciting to see coming out of Wyoming.
And I don't see it on here yet, but it's at about the same time that they're having their Frontier Project meeting. So about the same time. I don't have my calendar in front of me. 12th and 13th, or 11th and 12th, something like that.
Nice.
Mr. Burt was elected in Wyoming, right?
Yes, indeed, as part of the Frontier Project. Yeah.
That's excellent. That is wonderful.
Yeah. He's and I had the opportunity, the 11th and 12th. See, I was right. I had the opportunity to have dinner with Representative Burt and his wife and Apollo and we had a real good time while we were in Colorado. I skipped out of the gala and they had a great crowd for that too. But so we went out to eat and I got a chance to meet with Representative Burt and had a good time.
Nice.
Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah.
So, Ricky, out of everything that you've accomplished within the Libertarian Party and without, what would you say your greatest achievement so far has been?
Wow.
I know it's a deep one, isn't it?
I guess I'm one of those perfectionists that I don't think I've made it there yet.
Fair enough. Always striving for the stars. I like it.
The highest percentage vote total for any Libertarian federal candidate ever. That's pretty big.
I guess I'm kind of a weird person. I don't guess. I am weird.
It's okay. You joined the club.
Exactly. You're among friends here on that one.
Yeah.
My main goal, of course, is to try to show people that libertarian ideals have a place in this government and that people can solve the problems that they want to solve without the government's assistance. And there's a couple of things that we have to do. Let's say, a common critique, a part of libertarianism is, be an anti-welfare state. Okay, there may be some valid points there. Just, how we can get off that system entirely. But in order to do that, we have to show people the plan. We have to show people the timetable on how to do that. Or we have to show people that there's something that we're working on and there's something that we've already accomplished that is providing that need. So we have to stop talking about it and start being about it. That's why I say I'm not there yet.
Well, that raises a really good point that a lot of times we talk about we get stuck on the ideal, kind of our utopian vision, and we fail to explain the steps along the way. This is where we are. If we want to get way over there, we got to take steps. and sometimes we forget about that. We just talk about the ideal, and people kind of look at us like we're crazy because they don't really know how you would get from here to there. Apollo asks a question, and we touched on the debate just a little bit, but he said, "How did it feel to be the star of that debate?" And if you haven't met Apollo is our campaign director, I guess is what they call him, right? With the LNC.
Yes, indeed. It was extremely humbling. I don't want to speak as if and make it sound, like some magical thinking, but it's going to be a four-way race between Republican, Democrat, Independent, and Libertarian, and it ended up being a two-way race. And I just had the stage to myself, and I was, talking with my brother and just saying the opportunity that was presented to me. And I had to make the most of that opportunity because I couldn't have paid. There's no amount of money that you could have raised to have that type of exposure right there. And so it's extremely humbling. And I spent a lot of time in prayer, repeating the same thing over and over again. No confidence in the flesh. That's something that the Apostle Paul would say. Just to remind us of the importance of the mission, and that it's not about me. It's not about who I am and trying to expand myself, but it's about completing the mission. And that's how I felt about it. It was extremely humbling, extremely.
Well, it was also extremely impressive. There was, I think there were libertarians all over the country watching during your debate. Just excited to see you up there and representing us all so well. So, thanks for doing that.
Yes.
So, what else do we have? I'm looking to see if there's any good questions here. Need to use government in a less harmful way instead of just trying to cut everything. For example, opportunity zones and things like that. Do you have any big issues at the state level that you're focusing on? Talk about those a little bit again.
I do have a dangerous idea.
Those are usually the best.
Yeah.
I do have a dangerous idea, tied back to showing people a plan or something in the works, or something that we accomplished. I sympathize with people that have gone completely bankrupt because their health has gone down, or just not being able to afford it. And so the libertarian mantra is there's a free market way to solve this problem. So I am working on creating a healthcare token. A cryptocurrency healthcare token, to where patients and doctors can deal with one another. There's a whole lot more else going into it, but that's something that I'm working on, and that's a free market way to address this issue, giving the power back to the patients and healthcare providers, and letting them deal directly with one another when it comes to payment.
Very cool.
Interesting.
It is dangerous. It is a dangerous idea.
Okay. So what else? It's about that time. We're a little ahead of time, aren't we?
No,
How about corporate welfare?
How about corporate welfare? Well, what is your take, and how do we diminish the corporate welfare that we see so commonly here in our country? And that question is from ourselves and our posterity.
Well, first off, we need to align ourselves with people who are against corporate welfare. Whatever party they're affiliated with, whatever fringe that they're affiliated with, if we line up on some things, let's go ahead and line up on that, and let's try to work on that. Because once you can show that you can work on one issue, then you can work on another issue. And there's a good book, by Fisher and Uri, Getting to Yes. and getting past no, how to deal with those things. And so, going forward, how do we stop corporate welfare? We already know that those that are in power, they go way back, and they're, shuffling money around to one another. It's out there in the open, and people kind of feel powerless. But what we need to do is understand that we are not powerless. We can make a difference, and so we have to work together. We have to stop fighting on some of these trivial issues, because they are trivial whenever you compare it to the grand scheme of what corporate welfare does to this country. It robs the wealth of the people and deposits it to these multinational corporations, and that's just unethical.
That's true.
Well, and even more than that, I mean, it's not just corporate welfare, but, we have sort of a, I told somebody the other day that, we have so many people who equate capitalism and the free market. And really, capitalism and the free market, the capitalism that we have today is not the free market. They talk about the corruption of the free market. But what we have today is really much more like a corporatist system, or, it's a system where the big companies, and I'm not against business, even big business, but I'm against them having undue influence in the halls of government, and they do that through, large donations. They do that by, just sort of the regulatory capture that happens with corporate entities. So, a true free market system would be focused on the little guy, right?
Whether it be a plutocracy or an oligarchy, it's using your power and influence to essentially dominate, the rest of the people involved, and it's totally authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm sure you don't see any of that in Arkansas with the Walton family whatsoever.
Yeah, it's I think each of them are worth $30 some odd billion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've just completely just gone all over the world and dominated the market.
Mm-hmm.
Put a lot of people out of business. Wait, I don't need to say that. They'll throw the money at me.
Oh, well.
I'd like to say a couple of things. I'll keep it very brief. There's a famous quote from David Jeremiah that I like, and he talks about wisdom. And he said there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. And it's a simple way to communicate. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge and intellectualism, of course, has its place. But, wisdom is knowing how to apply it. And so, I just want to encourage my brothers and sisters in the liberty movement, that we need to settle down on this contentious infighting that we have going on in the party. Because if we are divided, there's no way that we can move our agenda forward. And so, yes, of course, there's differences. We need to set those aside where they are, minors, major in the major, minor in the minors, and let's deal with the big issues. Let's come together, because if we are a fractured party, we will not be able to accomplish what we hope to accomplish, the vision that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like to say it out there to all my brothers and sisters: just cool down, and let's the main thing remain the main thing.
We should have had that. Well, we'll get that clip and just paste it all over Libertarian World, if I may. Amen.
Absolutely. But before we go into the next segment of the show, AJ had a great question, I think. And Ricky, how do we approach the culture war as libertarians? What do we do when individuals use virtue signaling as a political cudgel? How would you deal with that, or how do you deal with that? Because I'm sure that comes up quite a bit when you're at various campaign events that you have hecklers or people are using the tried and true lines that we see so often. How do you overcome that, and how do you feel we should react to that?
First thing I'd like to address is the term virtue signaling,
Mhm.
and how we are now using it in a pejorative manner. When virtue is something that all of us as human beings need to be moving toward if we want to have stable, successful societies. So, I just totally think that people may disagree with me on that, but I just think I'm trying to be nice here.
That's very virtuous. Um,
I think it's a deflection from trying to engage on an issue that someone is bringing up, um, and we should all be moving toward being better. But this is what I've talked about with some other people on the podcast, and especially when we deal with issues of race. Just because me as a black man, I start talking about my experience, and you kind of feel a little uncomfortable. Um, let's talk about why you feel uncomfortable when I bring up situations, and that kind of goes along with the whole virtue signaling aspect. Whenever someone says we need to be better, um, if it offends you, just ask yourself, why am I offended? If it doesn't offend you, at least hear the person out and try to understand where they feel. And the culture war, for me, go ahead and do you, live your life. And I'll have a moment of vulnerability and honesty here. Of course, I was a Democrat before I became a part of the Libertarian Party.
Mhm.
And even as a Democrat, I had some issues with gay marriage. I'm just telling you the truth. Obviously, I'm a minister. But there were some people that took me along, and we discussed it, and we discussed it in the context of the law of the land, and that there's no reason under the law of the land that same-sex couples should not be allowed to marry. And so, we just have to be just genuine with one another and have those type of conversations, and not think of it as culture war. Live your life. Go be happy. Go be happy. And sometimes you don't need the approval of others in order to be happy. Happiness is inside yourself.
Yes.
yeah, and I think that's an important thing. I mean, we all come to the Libertarian Party from different places with different backgrounds, different experiences, and I think that's one of the great things about the Libertarian Party is that we, when we are at our best, we are live and let live kind of people, and we don't mess with other. We do whatever you want to do if it makes you happy. That doesn't mean that I have to endorse your activities necessarily, or the things you say. But that means that I'm kind of that way anyhow. Nebraskans are, in spite of what they say about us sometimes, we're kind of that way anyhow. It's just like, leave us alone, and we don't really care what you do. And I think that, I think that's indicative of a lot of people, that they really don't, as long as what you're doing isn't harming me or mine, I don't really care.
And that's the whole point of it all, right? Live and let live. If he ain't hurting nobody, he ain't taking the stuff. Is it dangerous? Is it harmful?
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's time for that part of the show that we all love. It is time for the Washington Week News Quiz.
Yay.
Now we'll see how much we know, huh?
Absolutely. So, first question. The Supreme Court is taking up a case next term that could challenge which landmark case? Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, Obergefell versus Hodges and Roe versus Wade. Which one is the Supreme Court thinking about taking up in their next session?
I don't know.
Jump into it.
Isn't that coming from Mississippi? After Mississippi just passed an abortion law,
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court is going to revisit Roe v. Wade.
Yeah. Yep.
That's correct. Even though I would love to see Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission come back up, but Roe v. Wade is potentially going to be in the next court session.
So any court watchers here?
Yeah.
I mean, even with the makeup of the current court, I just have a hard time. I suspect that they'll thread the needle.
Yeah.
And figure out a way to. I just don't see Roe versus Wade ever going completely away. That they'll figure out a way to thread the needle and hold some particular thing. You know, they may chip away a little bit, but they aren't going to. It isn't going to go away. I don't think. The court likes precedent.
To be honest, I don't even know if they're really going to chip away at it. I think, if anything, they're not going to expand it. I doubt that they're going to chip away from it. I think they're going to reinforce it more than anything else.
And I think there'll be a weird thing with Amy Comey Bryant. Was it Barrett? I think she'll be the one that throws everyone for a loop because everyone thought that she was going to be the one that destroys women's rights, right? So I think that'll be the big the shock. Yeah, the shock.
That would be a shocker. I mean, I would almost expect her and Thomas and Alito to be on the on one side, and then everybody else on the other. Yeah.
Thomas Clarence. Yeah. Thomas Clarence.
Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas. He's definitely, anti Roe v. Wade. He's wanted to bring that up. Same with Alito for years. And I just don't think they're going to have enough support for to make any movement on this.
Yeah, I don't think they've got five to move it. And the thing is that a case like that, you've got to have they aren't gonna be able to unless they can get 6 to go along, they aren't gonna change the precedent, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either.
What do you think, Ricky?
I know that each case has its own, caveats and difference and nuances from other cases. Mm-hmm. But I could see it as a 7-2 split with Alito and Thomas. Justice Thomas, voting in line with the plaintiff's case there. And Kavanaugh, he already said during his Senate, confirmation that Roe v. Wade is settled law. And, Gorsuch, I could see Gorsuch swinging, but, again, they parrot that it's settled law. And I'd surely hate for a Supreme Court justice to testify and then, flip-flop. But, I'd be reasonable about it, just depending on, the case, on what's happening.
Oh, John Locke here asks us, where does the Constitution guarantee a right to privacy? I won't go through my whole civil liberties and constitutional law cases, but it's in the penumbras and emanations of the First and Fifth and Fourth and the other Bill of Rights. So,
yeah, I think the Fourth Amendment right there establishes, our right to privacy, saying that the government can't come and take our stuff without a warrant. Mm-hmm. Probable cause, and they can't take just willy-nilly everything. It has to be everything that's on that list.
Yep, there is definitely a series of events that have to occur.
And we should make note that for those who, I don't even know how the four of us feel about this issue, but I think that the Libertarian Party has recognizes and has recognized in the platform that people of goodwill can disagree about this issue,
Mhm.
and that it's best just to keep the government out of it.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Yes.
After an upset in this week's Democratic primary, which major city is set to have its first black mayor? Boston, Pittsburgh, or New York?
well, not New York.
Yep, because that was Jenkins.
I'm going to guess Boston, but I don't know.
I don't know anything about
Boston have a
Boston or
black mayor
Pittsburgh.
as well?
I think
I'm almost positive Boston's had a black mayor before.
Well, then that
Yeah,
was Pittsburgh.
I think it's
I'm thinking it's Pittsburgh, but I could be wrong. You might be right. It might be Boston. I know it's not New York.
yeah.
My only guess would be New York.
I know it's not New York because David Jenkins was back
Yeah.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
Late 80s. But he was a black gentleman.
I say Pittsburgh also.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards Pittsburgh.
That's sort of a okay. Go for it.
Pittsburgh? Yep.
Yay.
Pittsburgh. So after defeating incumbent Bill Peduto in Tuesday's Democratic primary, Ed Gainley is in line to become Pittsburgh's first black mayor if he wins the general election this fall. Gainley is a 5-term Pennsylvania state representative and has campaigned on the focus of racial equality. Interesting.
Yeah. It would have been Roberto Clemente if he had still been alive. Pittsburghers love Roberto Clemente.
This week, the Supreme Court, there's a lot of Supreme Court questions this week.
Yeah.
This week, the Supreme Court declined to make it easier for police officers to do which of the following? Arrest suspected individuals without a warrant, enter private homes and conduct searches without a warrant, or stop and frisk suspects.
Mm.
This was a big one.
Number one seems odd. The first choice seems odd.
Declined to make it easier.
Well, yeah.
Decided not to make it easier for police officers to do which. I would guess.
If I could pick two, I'd probably pick the first one and the third one.
Yeah.
So I would actually be leaning towards the second one. Because you don't need to have a warrant
To arrest.
to arrest an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Stop and frisk was a policy that was exclusive to New York and was deemed to be actually a violation of rights, even though de Blasio is talking about bringing back a version of stop and frisk. And so, yeah, I mean, one of the things that's been going on around the country, especially with the alphabet soup of a lot of your Washington agencies, and it's going down to local police now too, is that, there's a lot of private homes that they are conducting search and seizures without a warrant. And I'm pushing for the middle one, that the Supreme Court has really taken it a little bit harder for police, or making that warrant a little more important to actually conduct that search and seizure.
That sounds right.
Seems logical to me, I guess.
Yeah.
Of course, Tom is going for option 4, which is download the Dunkin' Donuts app.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Hey, levity and humor is always great. So yes, the Supreme Court has declined to has declined to make it easier for officers to enter private homes and conduct searches without a warrant for safety reasons, according to NBC News. However, the court clarified that police can enter homes without a warrant to check on the elderly who need medical aid.
Yeah.
Police give medical aid?
What?
Police give medical aid?
Well, they can do health and wellness checks, and there's a lot of police departments around the country that the police are the first line for a health and wellness check.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to call police departments to assist me in informing if an inmate might have passed away in prison and trying to notify next of kin. I could see that, going into private homes without a warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Would I guess the problem would be is if they went in to serve to notify next of kin and saw, like a big suitcase full of cash on the couch,
Right.
and then started to do something else.
Well,
Yeah, that would be a problem.
That is one of the risks, I guess. Yeah. But
I mean, it could be just legitimate cash too, but someone being all state.
Especially if it's an elderly person, because they put their money under mattresses and weird things like that. So.
No, but I'm glad that the Supreme Court has stood firm and made sure that warrants are definitely a very important part of the judicial system. So.
Okay, so
Bravo
before we get to the next question, because Harrison keeps adding urgent, can you guys please discuss the unintended consequences of the stimulus, unemployment effects on small businesses, or I'm not gonna. Well, let's talk about just briefly some of the unintended consequences of the stimulus and unemployment. I mean, small businesses are having a terrible time, at least in my part of the world, in hiring employees.
Yeah.
I'm a small business owner. I own a home inspection business. And yeah, it doesn't affect my business, but it affects a lot of the businesses that I do business with.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's a huge thing. It's a huge problem. As a small business owner, the stimulus and the unemployment effects are huge. You look at the time it takes for homes to be built right now. Granted, some of it is from the new regulation that's coming down the pike. Some of it's from shortages of materials, but that too can also be attributed potentially to this, because there may not be enough drivers or people in the manufacturing chain to actually keep up with demand. So this is going to have ramifications for a very long time, and it's deep. It's really deep. It's not just surface.
Yeah. Okay, now we can move on.
What action did the White House take this week in response to conflicts to the Middle East? Okay, if you've been reading the news, this one, I don't know, at least in the news feeds that I follow, this was talked about a lot.
Weapons deal.
Yeah, it was.
Go to for America. Sell those guns.
Yeah. They'll use
So Joe Biden, in his infinite wisdom, to bring the Palestinians to the peace table, sold Israel $735 million of weapons on a loan program that Israel won't have to pay us back for decades, which include jets, tanks, a lot of military hardware. And Israel is, and a lot of missiles too, a ton of missiles.
And we already give them $10 million a day in foreign aid.
Yep, and this was $735 million additional only in weapons. In weapons.
And we're just sitting here talking about like how nobody has a job and nobody wants to work, or not nobody wants to work, but companies are going bankrupt, and we're just printing out.
By the way,
money.
More than half of this is all products that are produced by Raytheon. Raytheon is a huge supporter of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
That's crazy. So, Ricky, I've got a question for you. If you were governor of Arkansas, would you send out a tweet that says Nebraska stands with or Arkansas stands with Israel? I asked that because our governor did. It was just that's all that the tweet said.
Well, for me, I know that I'm gonna have to answer to God one day for all the things that I do, good and bad, and I would just be quiet.
Well, but I mean, there's a difference between private support, right, and personal support, and claiming that a whole state agrees with you and stands with a particular country. I mean, that was my problem with it. It's not sort of the generic support of a people, but rather this notion that a state, not a nation state, but the state of Nebraska stands with a foreign country. I mean, what's Nebraska's governor? I've got my own problems with the Nebraska governor, obviously, but what is he thinking?
He has no business.
I mean, the governor of Nebraska has nothing to do with what's going on in foreign policy, and certainly not with Israel. So that was just kind of my take on it. Did we lose Eric?
Yeah, our host is gone.
That's weird because we can't move. Oh, there he is.
I got called away for a moment. I do apologize.
Okay, next one. Good thing we were riffing for you here.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much. Oh, so yeah. We already discussed that. How much money did New York Governor Andrew Cuomo earn from his book about COVID-19 pandemic? And what an amazing job New York and particularly Governor Andrew Cuomo did in handling the pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
Too much.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that this is happening.
Any more than $1 is too much.
Oh yeah, this was a lot of self-love. If you, I've only read the excerpt or the jacket to this book. I have not actually read the book, but even the jacket blurb is
better be on the Pirate Bay.
It's definitely a horn tooter. I will definitely say this much.
The subtitle called "How I Murdered Your Grandmother."
And how I single-handedly saved the United States.
I mean, the grift is strong with this one.
Oh yeah. How much money did he make off of it, though?
I mean, most of those deals are pretty lucrative.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd at least $1 million.
That seems like a reasonable amount. I mean that he would have earned that sort of an advance for that, probably.
Yeah, that sounds right. Even though it's disgusting, but yeah.
Given his stature, if I was trying to write a book or something, $500,000 would be a huge advance. I mean, a huge advance. If you were a good writer, putting out a lot of books, I should say. But my estimation would be $1 million.
So we got million. Valerie, how much do you say?
Yeah, I agree. $1 million.
Million. Unfortunately, none of you even close.
What was the answer?
He's already paid
$5.1
million, and this is as of last week.
Oh my gosh!
Actually, he's over $7 million on this already.
That's crazy.
He's over $7 million on this. Amazon alone paid him. I want to say something like $3 million for 2-week exclusivity on this.
Wow. What on earth?
So not only did he get publisher fees and all of that stuff, he was paid for exclusivity on this book. I mean, it was just...
And he's still in office.
Yeah, still in office.
He's still in office.
Still in office. Already, surprise, already planning his re-election campaign.
They better not say nothing to me.
This guy is disgusting.
When you go to one of those National Governor Association meetings, you can let him have it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
You have to hold. You better win to hold his feet to the fire, Ricky. It is disgusting what this man does. Disgusting. Not to mention his sexual impropriety and all of that stuff. I mean, he milks this office for every penny it's worth, and the fact that people think that he's actually a decent human being is disgusting. His brother, who works on CNN, calls him out for the louse that he is on a daily basis, and yet people still bow to him. It's disgusting.
It's weird.
That's off the turnbuckle type of grift right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and by the way, don't ask me how I really feel about the man. So a 107-year-old woman testified before Congress this week seeking justice for what U.S. event? The Tulsa race massacre of 1921, the Camden shootings of 1949, or the Columbine High School massacre of 1999?
Those are race riots.
Yeah, the Tulsa thing sounds right to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, if you didn't see her, I don't think her testimony has been released in its entirety, but there are clips available, along with some of the other people that testified. It's moving. Their personal account of what happened for those several days in Tulsa, it puts a light on it. You can read about like the accounts, but hearing it from the people that live through it is profound. So,
National Guard was called in. They firebombed. Greenwood. I mean, they called in the military to firebomb a black community.
Yep.
That's a stain on our history.
It really is. And it started with just racism.
It started with the same old thing. It's the same old thing. A black man whistled, looked, something at a white woman. I'm sorry.
Yep.
That's how every one of them, Emmett Till, whistled at a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
And
he actually denies the fact, or at the time, because obviously he didn't survive, but he denied the fact that he actually whistled at her. He actually claimed that he was whistling to one of his coworkers to get his attention, but she took it as the fact that he was whistling at her, and it started a mob riot, which then got enforced by the government. And it's disgusting, absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, we got to find a way to get over those. Just bring them to the forefront. We acknowledge that we got a terrible past and we want a brighter future. So let's stop. Let's stop the trash.
That reminds me of a quote, but Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Franklin Delano Roosevelt said that if we be bold, if it doesn't work, admit it frankly and try something new. That can be applied to this. Mm-hmm. That we have to admit it frankly and try something new and move forward, united together to make this country better, but admit our faults. And I think that is so important.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention something right quick. I've told some people about whenever I was 18 and I was threatened with lynching by 3 older white men in a bowling alley. They told me that we from the old school, boy, we got an AK-47 and a noose, and we'll drag your black ass behind this truck and string you up in the tree and shoot your dead body. And I was with some Caucasian friends at the time, and whenever the 3 old gentlemen approached me and said that, they all busted out laughing. Great friends. But because of that incident, I don't treat every Caucasian person that I come in contact with. I don't punish them for those 3 men mistakes, because that's those 3 men mistakes. It's not any other white person that I have to meet. And so I talk about that story with some of my friends, and try to help them understand. You might not understand what it's like for me being black in America, but I don't hold you responsible for the mistakes of others. And if we can come together and have that conversation, that just because you happen to be Caucasian doesn't automatically make you racist. But there are some people that are racist and violent about it, and actively trying to express their hatred for other people. Just because you might not be doesn't mean there are not other people out there that subscribe to that and are willing to act on it.
Yes.
Next, there we go.
Which state attorney general expanded its probe into the Trump organization's business to include criminal misconduct? Illinois, New Jersey, or New York?
It was New York, wasn't it?
Maybe.
New York.
Might have been, wasn't it? Might have been New Jersey. I don't know. It was one of those.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was New Jersey or New York. I'm leaning towards New Jersey because I think it had to do with the Atlantic City constructions that he did. But it might be New York because he did a lot of property development in New York as well. And Bob's saying New York, Sublime is saying New York, Jared is saying New Jersey. So I think we can safely eliminate Illinois.
Yeah.
But consensus of the crowd is New York is probably the direction to go.
I would agree with that myself too.
I think so too. He was like domiciled in New York.
Yeah.
So New York, yes. I just want this man to go. I'm so tired of him.
He's the greatest. Fade off,
He's the
the funny thing is, this is what I find humorous, and you may or may not find this humorous, but the Democrats want to punish him so badly that they keep his name in the news nonstop, even though he's out of the presidency. And they are giving him the exact thing that he wants, and it's all this attention. They are playing into his little fantasy.
He's sort of like a toddler that you really just have, when they're throwing a temper tantrum, you just walk away.
Yeah.
And just ignore them. And eventually they'll burn themselves out and fall asleep. And then that would be the ideal. I think, we just got to quit giving the guy attention.
That's what I'm saying. You just good riddance to good rubbish and just out, go. Never want to see you again. But they don't stop. And they're just giving him the attention that he needs to continue to throw his little temper tantrum and have all of the attention that he wants.
Yeah, he feeds off that. You can talk as much trash about him as you want, and he feeds off of it, and it gives him strength.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. His supporters are more emboldened to support him by the day. It amazes me. The European Union took its first major step this week to do which of the following? Provide economic relief for COVID-19 business closures, send some of its vaccine supply to poorer countries, or relax travel restrictions for tourists.
Oh, yeah, it's that relaxed travel restrictions. Because
that's St. Peter's Basilica?
Yes. With the Medici Tower. But the other two answers are quite humorous, to me at least, because obviously the European Union has been providing COVID-19 relief for business closures. However, there are so many different countries that find their political leaders now in legal trouble because this was siphoned. Spain, Estonia, Italy, all have politicians, and not low-level politicians, high-level politicians that are all either out of office or facing criminal charges for embezzlement of COVID-19 funds.
Oh my gosh.
And vaccine supply to poorer countries. Some of the European nations are some of the lowest vaccinated countries in the world. Germany, Austria have some of the lowest vaccine supply and actual vaccine takers in the world. So yeah, I mean, they don't even have the supply to handle it themselves. So, yeah.
I mean, some European countries are traditionally like pretty against vaccines in general.
Oh yeah.
So that's not shocking to me, but yeah, the embezzlement.
One of the last great epidemics of smallpox was in Europe because nobody wanted to take the smallpox vaccine.
And the last major outbreak of measles in this country came from somebody who came from Germany or France and went to Disneyland.
Torrential rain and power outages swept through which two states, causing property damage? Texas and Louisiana, Alabama and South Carolina, or Florida and Georgia?
I didn't hear anything about this.
Pure guess, Texas and Louisiana.
It is Texas and
That was my guess,
Louisiana,
yeah.
Because of a tropical depression that was sitting in the Gulf of Mexico that stalled and just kept dumping water and water and water. Some areas of Texas and Louisiana got over 30 inches of rain.
Tropical depression in May?
That's what I was just thinking too.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Well, we're about to have our second named storm already of the season, and the season hasn't even started yet.
We're in for a big one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
this
gosh.
is probably going to be a big year for it.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
And last question. The CDC announced that the data from trials testing COVID-19 vaccines on pregnant women will be released by winter 2021, summer 2021, or spring 2022.
I would say winter 2021 because they would have started doing them pretty recently here.
Yeah. And it takes a while to get all the way through the pregnancy. Yeah.
So we're saying winter of 2021?
That's my guess because they've already been doing it, you know.
Yeah. To be honest, I have no idea.
Oh, no.
It's summer of 2021.
Wow.
That's when they're going to be releasing the data.
That means they've been doing it to the pregnant women for longer than I was under the impression. So,
well, actually, if you've, I don't know if anybody else has gotten their vaccines and done the CDC. They've got this app that you're supposed to tell them how you're feeling and stuff like that. And I get mine, and it keeps asking questions like, have you become pregnant since having your vaccine and that sort of stuff? It's like, well, no, I haven't, but but I suppose that that contributes to the.
So here's the funny thing: I've been doing that same questionnaire. They ask me the same question.
Do they really?
Yep. They are very interested if I become pregnant.
But you haven't, right?
I didn't do that, I didn't even get that survey, but maybe I just ignored it. When I went to get my vaccine, the guy was like, "Are you pregnant?" I was like, "God, I hope not." And everyone was like,
I'm the mother of four.
Yeah. It's like, I'm good, thanks.
So Sublime Sense asks, should there be a CDC? And that's a tough one.
What's the alternative?
Right.
Exactly. I believe that there should be, if it's not the CDC, I think it should be something like the CDC, definitely privately funded. I don't want to see it as part of the government. But I do think having a centralized location for data to both come in and go out to our medical establishments is a good idea. How that gets created, I would definitely think private ownership would be the best. But I definitely think some sort of organization needs to exist.
Okay,
and Harrison, I know I'm against vaccine passports. I'll let everyone else chime in. But
I am also, and I don't like the tone of that question. Like, we're not all true libertarians, but no, I don't know anybody who's for a vaccine passport. No one has the right to my health information unless I tell them.
Right.
I'm not going to get on a roller coaster if I have a heart condition. Passports. But like, calm down. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, if if somebody asks me nicely and says that entering their business as a is proof of vaccine is required, I'll show it to them, I guess, if I need to use that business. But yeah, I don't think we ought to have to flash our papers and and I think the big question is the way the disease is sort of burning itself out. I guess not overseas quite so much yet, but by the time anybody got around to actually creating something that everybody could carry around, it's going to be gone. So what's the point?
Absolutely, totally agree.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think I mentioned this last week. I don't remember when I went to Costco, but Costco was giving out samples, and that was like the sign of
vaccine.
No, of the at Costco, they were giving out the food, and which they haven't been doing, and so that to me was the sign of this is the end, right? Because if they're giving out food again, and the town that the Costco is in New Hampshire still had a mask mandate, so we had to like move our mask, eat the food real quick, and then keep going. But they ended their mask mandate today, so I was like, well, I got to go to Costco tomorrow and see what goodies they have out. The end is near, friends.
So we've reached that point of our program. Do we have any announcements? Anything that's coming up in the next week that we want everyone to know about?
Next week.
Well, next Thursday night I won't be here. I will be going to Disney on Ice with my granddaughter and my two daughters. We're going to make it a girls' night.
Very nice.
And then on next Friday, the 4th, we will all be making our way to Chicago.
Yes.
For the LNC meeting.
Yes. So that's going to be very exciting. I hope you get to meet lots of Disney princesses and princesses.
I'm sure it'll be great fun. Yeah.
So in honor of that, who do you think is the most libertarian Disney princess?
I like the gal from Brave. Is that a
Disney in my head? I was telepathically thinking to you.
Okay.
I agree. I think that is. I think that's a great answer. She's definitely a strong, independent woman. That is for sure, and that is a key requirement, I think, to be in the Libertarian.
Although that new one, the newest one that came out, what's that called? Surely you've seen it, Valerie. The dragons and.
Oh no, we haven't seen it yet because I don't pay for Disney Premium. I only pay for the Disney Plus.
It's amazing. It's really, really good. So
Raya and the Last Dragon.
Yes, Raya is pretty good too.
Someone asked if you could provide more information about your meetup in Jonesboro.
Oh yes, the meetup at Jonesboro. It will be. Let me see. I'll pull up my phone and tell what the park is. It'll be at a park. It's going to be a cookout. Going to be some grilling, food. Just kind of a meet and greet. Hopefully, a little laid back. And if it's not, I'll be laid back. Just try to communicate with people. Try to let them know where I stand and what I hope to accomplish if they choose to elect me to be their governor. And necessary. The first thing is to get on the ballot. So we are trying to collect those signatures. That's the number one thing. Once we do that, then we move on to the next phase. And interesting, for me is I can just keep campaigning. The other party folks, they got a battle in front of them, and so they'll get through that battle, and I'll just be coast alone, speaking my message, making connections with people while they fighting one another, and so that'll give me a little advantage there. And after they're done with their fight, now they have to fight somebody that's a little refreshed.
Yeah.
So just to remind everyone, right below us, scrolling at the bottom, it's www.rickyharrington.com to make sure Liberty is on the ballot in Arkansas. Please go there and donate what you can to make sure that is on the ballot, because Ricky is a great guy and definitely a fighter for liberty and is a torch holder for that. So please donate what you can. That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much there.
Thanks,
every dollar helps.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Ricky. We really appreciate it, and it's been great fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've enjoyed myself.
So with that, I'm going to say goodnight, everyone. We ran a little over tonight. Thank you so much for sticking with us, because I see those numbers really haven't gone down. So I'm glad.
Donations. Thank you.
Yes. Ricky, thank you so much for coming on the show. You're an amazing guest, and I know you're going to be a huge success in Arkansas. And to all of our viewers, yes, thank you as well. We will see you next week. And well, minus Laura, for another episode of Libertarians at Large, and we're gonna have another great guest. See you then. Have a great night and have a fantastic week.